All yours.
Yep, so I think we're good to go. Hi everybody, thank you for the welcome. My name's Lillian. I'm Scottish originally, but I've been here in the Czech Republic in Brno for maybe 10 years, maybe a bit more. I'm not sure. In that time, every year I've taught C1 and C2 learners. And I know a lot of people are terrified at the thought of teaching this level of student. It's very challenging. According to Cambridge, this is the definition of a proficient learner. I'm going to talk more about C1, C2. And also like to emphasize, I'm not talking about the CPE exam. I'm talking about students who either have the exam, don't have the exam and don't want it, students who just have excellent English and keep wanting to learn more. So, who are these people? Here in Brno, I've had some of the same students for 7 years at this level. So you can imagine I've had quite a lot of experience, and there's a lot of work to do with them. In general, it can apply to all students, of course, but proficiency will tend to have a very high level of education. Often middle and higher management professionals, teachers, I always get teachers, and teachers are the worst students. They ask so many difficult questions. They never do their homework, and they don't stay on topic. But they're wonderful. They're great fun. A lot of academics. They may be needed for work. Scientists, IT, newly arrived economic immigrants, government international organization officials, and I just lost the last one. The last comment is mine. They're my students. Over the years, they've become friends. Some of them are colleagues. And rather depressingly, or great for the Czech Republic, they're getting younger and younger. I can't do pub lessons with some of my advanced students anymore. And it's not just that I'm getting older. They really are getting younger. Great for them. Great for young learner teachers. This is a little graph I made myself. There's no scientific basis for this whatsoever. The bottom line, this linear line, is what the IH levels suggest people can do. Each year, you progress a level on the IH scale. So you're C2 by year 9 or 10. What actually happens is people do quite well. Then they hit what we all call the intermediate plateau. For some people, that's a year, 2 years. For some people, it's for the rest of their life. What people tend to forget is they get past that stage and they hit this advanced plateau as well, where you seriously start wondering, why do I need to learn anymore? Or what can I learn? So this is where we need to move it on a step, make it a bit different for them. Some specific things with proficiency. Intermediate, you can look at the textbook and you can say, they haven't done this grammar, they haven't done this vocabulary. Fine. With proficiency, they're all over the place with what they know, what they don't know. Depends on their interests, what they read. Learners might not know what they are missing. They think they know everything. They don't. Conversely, they may be all too well aware of it. I have one student who's obsessed with idioms. He loves idioms and he knows he doesn't know them all. So that's what he wants to do all the time. Topics. Yeah, this is connected, I think, to my next point. Now, choosing the topics, there's not so many resources. I'm going to come in here. Lack of materials. There are CPE books. There's nothing for very, very advanced learners that is not exam-based. Very little. So you need to get to know your students, find out what they're interested in, find out what's going to help them. You do get some people who think, I know everything, although I find this is more likely at B2 plus than it is at C1 or C2. The proficiency plateau, which I just talked about, but also the problem here is measuring progress. How do they realise that they've moved on? It's incredibly difficult. It comes back to something that was said earlier. They still need to revise. They need to see that they've done things and they're doing them again. Fossilised errors. Never teach your learners the expression fossilised errors. They use it all the time. Boredom for both of us. Maintaining a logical sequence of lessons. I always tend to plan for very high levels a block of 2 or 3 lessons. I'm going to go quickly through some suggested language areas. These first ones, pictures are wonderful. Can somebody help Gordana out with fossilised errors for me, please? Synonyms and antonyms. Collocation. Get in there with collocation, get in there with new phrases. Neologisms, somebody else maybe wishes to define that. Onomatopoeia. You can have a lot of fun making silly noises. Homonyms, homophones. Ambiguous words and euphemisms. False friends. There are false friends with most European and actually Slavic languages as well. Rhyming phrases. Want to do, have some fun. You need to explore, and you really want to push your boundaries with proficiency, or I do. You also really need to get to know your students. Start working on humour, understanding humour, trying to be humorous in another language. It's difficult in your own. Sarcasm and irony. You can have great fun with this. Different Englishes. Technically, I am Scottish, definitely, but I don't think I sound very Scottish, but apparently I do sometimes. And I use other authentic programs to point out to people that there is not actually a standard English. At proficiency, they've got to be used to it. Lying. It's another good fun game to play in class. Colloquial language and slang. They will travel. They will go places. This one, swearing, giving abuse. Obviously, this depends on your culture and your classroom and your students. Be careful whether it's acceptable or not. Giving compliments. Very useful skill. Most men cannot do this in their own language. So maybe they can learn it in another language first. Nuance, subtlety, understatement, exaggeration. This is all working on pronunciation, working on choice of language, working on context. Poetry, why not? If you want some fun for poetry, try Roald Dahl's Revolting Rhymes. You can gap fill them, you can have repetition. Literature. Go on to some of my favorites, I think. Oh, sorry, I missed newspapers. So, my personal favorite, The Economist magazine, because it has everything on a huge range of topics with fantastic language to create things. Every second week there is an article called Johnson, and it's about language, and it's usually very interesting. I read The Guardian, so I use The Guardian. Harvard Justice is a website about the ethics behind the law. It's not about law. And the professor is fantastic. His language is not so difficult, but he has a wonderful style of delivery. It can be used for discussion. The website also has questions for students to discuss. It can be used for prosody, pronunciation, presentation skills. Very enjoyable. Call My Bluff. I think many people have probably seen a version. Give students a word, a phrase. They have to define it, but also give 2 false definitions. There is a British TV show of this, which is very high-level English. Fantastic. All of these, of course, are using authentic language. Catchphrase, it's another British quiz show for idioms and phrases. Blockbusters, the quiz show. All of these are on YouTube or just on the internet. Newsnight, any of these programs which encourage discussion, encourage analysis of language. Chat shows, quiz shows. Yeah, the quiz shows and chat shows, I tend to show examples, live examples, and then we'll analyze some language, we'll analyze the style, and the students will create their own quiz show or chat show or radio program. I've done things including being psychiatrists and patients, husbands and wives. It helps if you know your students. One of my favorites for language, anything from him, is Stephen Fry. Oh, I've just forgotten the name of it. The Letter is on YouTube as a video, and you can get the transcript. It's a fantastic story with nice language, very nice language. And I find it very fascinating, and it's generally very popular. But very quickly, just to sum up some of my key points, some of the things I love and don't like, you may have to remind the students that they don't know everything. And even I do not know everything. Yeah, I can't do accents. I don't understand my niece, who's 19 sometimes. So we are not Google. We are not omnipotent. Yeah. I love that learners can teach each other. I can take a back seat and observe. It's great that I can participate, not just observe, play devil's advocate. Tend to do a lot more reformulation, so improving the language rather than simply correcting. A lot of scope to play with it, and almost done. My lot continued. Authentic resources. Yes, sorry, it's more work for you, but you can have the students provide it. They can create materials, especially when you have teachers. You have to be ready to adjust your timing. Flexibility is everything. Yeah. Apart from that, you really should have fun and enjoy it. So thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, evening. I hope the weather's as nice there as it is here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lillian. The weather certainly is nice here now. It's making me jealous of being here.